Good evening, spiritual warriors. Welcome to Spiritual Warriorship, a program of hearing from, discussing, becoming mindful and aware of the books of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. And it's, what's today's date? No, the 13th. It'll be 1 year that we have been sitting in front of this camera and endeavoring to share with you the concept of spiritual warriorship is given to us by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and to help us, as he said, become grounded in really knowing who we are as spiritual beings, eternal beings. And if you've been hearing, that thread weaves through all of the readings we've been doing. We're now in Spiritual Warrior 5, making the mind your best friend. And we're on the chapter, An Attitude of Gratitude. How has your gratitude been this week? How has your attitude been this week? Okay. Have you been practicing an attitude of gratitude these weeks that we've been doing it, if you've been coming and hearing? And if you're here for the first time, let's think about what that means. An attitude of gratitude means saying thank you. Tonight we're nearly at the end of this particular chapter, and we'll be hearing the section called Hearing from the Scriptures. But before we go, I always like to do a quick run through for myself and for those that may have been here before and just want to do a quick run through. And what are we just talking about? An attitude of gratitude. And we were informed and we talked about that we need to know that everything rests on the Lord. Our problem, most of it, when we're not grateful, is that we don't realize that everything rests on the Lord. And we may not express gratitude because we do not appreciate that the Supreme Lord, either directly or indirectly, arranges everything. This is where your spiritual knowledge and understanding comes in. If you know who you are as an eternal being, and Bhakti Tirtha Swami, as I said, that's like a thread throughout. And also a thread throughout is that the Supreme Lord is the controller, arranger, and that we are His servants. So we have a relationship with Him. So what we need, the concept of gratitude can counteract destructive mindsets, because sometimes we have really poverty mind and so many things going through. But once we take the time to realize that the Supreme, directly or indirectly, as we said, arranges everything. So what did we go through? We went through what blocks the development of gratitude. Anybody remember? What blocks the development of gratitude? 3 things were given. The enemies of the mind, lack of thankfulness, and excessive false ego. By the way, if you don't have this book and you're getting excited about what we've been through, it can be purchased at Krishna.com store. Spiritual Warrior 5 by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. But after going through and showing us what blocks the development of gratitude, he then gives us what supports gratitude. And that's one thing, if you've been following these readings and study, he shows us the problems, so you can say, yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, I've been there. And then he gives us what supports and uplifts, and he gives us techniques, technologies to work through. And this is the wonderful, wonderful thing. It's like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna comes to Krishna frustrated and fearful and frightened, don't want to fight. And Krishna begins to tell him and give him what he needs, the knowledge he needs to know to go on the battlefield and fight. And we are getting, as spiritual warriors, Bhakti Tirtha Swami is giving us the weapons, techniques to be able to go on the battlefield of consciousness and fight to help others and, of course, help ourselves. So what supports gratitude? Remember? Selflessness was one. Recognizing the meaning of life was another. Removing yourself from the center. That one's important. Because when you think I'm the all in all, how are you going to be grateful? Understanding the importance of forgiveness. That's seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. And seeing every exchange as new and fresh. Those were the points that supports gratitude. And then remember, we went through the story of his aunt and we came away with an expression, blessed by the best. Have you tried that? Have you used it? Did you surprise your friends when they would ask how things are or what's going on? I'm blessed by the best, with a smile on your face. And when you do that, you can feel inside a connection and knowing that that Supreme Lord is there. So before I begin tonight's section, hearing from the scriptures, I just want to review the questions that we can all think about as we're dealing with gratitude. And now before I get to that this is under the title, A Lesson in Every Situation. And that was great. I hope you're realizing more and more, whatever's going on in your life, whatever the situation is, there's a lesson to be learned. And he says here, when we develop gratitude, we increase our appreciation of the positive aspects of our lives. Because in the material world there is duality, up, down, in, out, good, bad. But if we appreciate the positive aspects of our lives, then we give less attention to the seemingly negative aspects. Proper gratitude means that we always have faith in the Lord as our well-wisher. And I keep, when I read, seeing how important those 12 qualities of a spiritual warrior are for us to imbibe. Oh, by the way, I don't know how this will work, but I've asked the technician at Krishna.com to put up, he said he'd put up a link that you'll be able to get a poster of the 12 qualities of a spiritual warrior. And if it's there, you can click on it and get it. As I said, I'm not the techie person, but that's what I was told today. Is it there? There is a link. Okay. So these 12 qualities, I keep seeing how they come up. But proper gratitude means we always have faith in the Lord as our well-wisher. And always honor the indwelling presence of the Lord as Paramatma, the Lord in the heart. We will eagerly want to honor that presence of the divinity within every person. Because if we recognize it and know it's within us, it has to be in every other living person. And the Lord himself tells us in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So these are the questions I've been putting out every week and think about, because I'm thinking about them myself. If we really recognize God's presence everywhere, His energy is everywhere, how can we not have a strong sense of gratitude? How can we not develop gratitude if we really understand that God's mercy is greater than His law? How can we not develop gratitude if we recognize that every moment is a chance to try to increase the quality of our service? How can we not develop gratitude after recognizing the fact that this very body in this lifetime is an opportunity to free ourselves once and for all of death, old age, birth, and disease? How can we not have gratitude if we remind ourselves that the Lord is always so close, residing in our hearts, monitoring us, and waiting to be fully discovered in order to shower us with loving ecstasy? And what this is saying to us, for gratitude, we need to have the knowledge, as we said at the very beginning, that everything rests on God, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, and that everything is arranged by Him, and He arranges by our consciousness and by our desire. So, having put those questions out again, hopefully you're meditating on them, contemplating on them, and endeavoring to apply and understand this attitude of gratitude. Let's hear from the scriptures. There are many stories in the Vaishnava tradition as well as other theologies that emphasize the importance of a proper attitude, which will lead to auspiciousness and spiritual progress. Just want to try and raise this book a little bit here. For example, the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, chapter 23, in the Vaishnava tradition, describes the wonderful kirtans that went on in Srivasa Thakur's house. And we know, those of us, if we've been to temples, and now kirtans are going on everywhere. I saw a video, a YouTube of the rabbi. There's a rabbi doing kirtans in synagogues now. And all that is singing and praising of the Lord. So we're hearing now of kirtan that went on, and this is over 500 years ago when Lord Chaitanya, the Lord himself, was on the planet. Lord Chaitanya and his wonderful associates, they would come together to participate in nighttime kirtans and associate with those who had the similar mentality. Such devotees were completely surrendered, completely in love with the Lord, and completely aware of Krishna's position as the supreme controller. Our problem is we think we're the controller, and that's where we're running into a lot of difficulty, when we know the Supreme is the controller. Since they understood the supreme position of the Lord, they could also understand that there are no accidents. Therefore, they had the highest expression of gratitude and could properly glorify the Lord while associating with one another. Devotee-friendly association while singing the name of the Lord or while recognizing the Lord, as we just said previously, then we can honor that presence of the Lord in everyone. So once a young brahmachari, that's a student, who wanted to come and participate in the environment, approached Srivas Thakur. This brahmachari was extremely austere and very knowledgeable. He took an austere vrata or vow that he would just drink a little milk, remaining oblivious to the material body and material world, because he desperately desired to get the mercy of the Lord. Now, some austerities are so intense that they say death to the physical and life to the eternal or the spirit. In other words, by denying the physical, sometimes a person has really taken some serious steps to try to avoid the duality of the material world. It means that the person puts him or herself in a completely dependent position on the Lord. Rigorous austerities have that kind of background, connection. Such persons really say, I completely belong to you, Lord. Do with me as you like. I am ready to move so far away from the center that I am no longer even concerned about eating, living conditions, fame, adoration, and distinction. I am asking myself fully out of the center. I am taking myself fully out of the center so that I can honor you and worship you intensely. Now, that takes a lot of knowledge of understanding and strong desire for love of God to speak words like that. But what happens with me as I read statements or prayers like this, that some of it is possible. I may not be able to be that austere, but it encourages the idea of wanting the Lord so bad that you're willing to make sacrifices Now, this brahmachari, who's a celibate student, had this type of mentality because he had minimized the things that people normally pursue for themselves. Consequently, Srivastava Thakur felt that he was a very special person and eagerly invited him in for the kirtan and the association. Now, during the kirtan, Lord Chaitanya noticed a difference in the atmosphere and in the ecstasy, because whatever we carry spills over into the environment. So it's like, you can't cheat God, you can't fool God, you can't hide from God. Because, as we said earlier, He's everywhere present, He's in everybody. So whatever is there is going to spill out and in the environment. Now, if you're in the environment with the Lord Himself, as these people were, He's going to pick up on it. So what happened? He understood that some visitor had been invited. And he later distinctly asked about the visitor, and Srivas made it clear that he had in fact invited this brahmachari. Although Srivastava Thakur described his austerities and other achievements, such descriptions did not impress Lord Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that austerities alone cannot get His mercy. Even these very extreme levels of commitment or austerities, although knowledge, rituals, and austerity function as prerequisites, they cannot really purchase the Lord. Krishna may easily give mukti, which is liberation, or bhukti, which is material enjoyment, and siddhi, mystic perfections, but He will not give bhakti quite as easy. Bhakti is loving service. A person must first become a bhakta and give himself fully in order to receive the Lord. So what happened? Lord Chaitanya then chastised Srivas and ordered the brahmachari to leave. However, although the brahmachari had to relinquish that association, he felt so grateful for the few moments in the extraordinary environment. So you see how that attitude of gratitude, as we said, a lesson in every situation. It may not be going the way we want it or think it should go, especially in this story based on the austerities we went through. I mean, the fasting maybe twice a week and whatever other rituals. But it's the gratitude the Lord can see of the smallest bit of connection with Him in a straightforward way. So the brahmachari departed with the extreme mood of gratitude, deeply appreciating that brief chance to absorb himself in that atmosphere. And that's why when we talked earlier about get yourself out the center, it's not about name, fame, and pat on the back and you're so great for what you're doing. It's a humility, a humbleness of knowing who the Lord is and being thankful for whatever you are receiving from him. And here it was just a moment's association, and he was so grateful. Lord Chaitanya could understand his mood of gratitude. Although the boy's powerful austerities did not impress him, his appreciation and gratitude actually caught Lord Chaitanya's attention. Consequently, Lord Chaitanya called him back and allowed him to take part in the ongoing exchanges. I hope you've heard that description and seeing how, again, we just said the Lord says he's in everybody's heart, so he's always there. And how he recognizes the sincerity of gratitude and thanksgiving and appreciation for a moment's association, a moment of awareness. And then he gives you more mercy. Sridhar, another story, tells Kolavesha, during the same time period in Vaishnava history, also exemplifies this mood. And what's the mood we're talking about? A mood of gratitude, a mood of appreciation. Chaitanya Charnamrita describes how he did not have much money and simply sold cups and plates made from banana leaves to earn his livelihood. However, in spite of the seemingly abject position, he was so ecstatic, eager, and grateful. We said, it came to mind, if you only have 2 coins to rub together, can you be ecstatic and grateful? If you look for the positive side and you're desiring to serve the Lord, you will have some sense of that appreciation for whatever you have. In spite, yeah. So what would he do? He would use 50% of the little money that he earned from his sale for service and puja, although he could barely maintain himself. Nevertheless, he felt so grateful for the opportunity to even use the little money he had in the Lord's service. That word opportunity, if you've been listening through the months, it's come frequently, like really every moment is an opportunity to have the knowledge, gain the knowledge, and to be thankful and appreciative of what we've gotten while in these material bodies in this lifetime. Someone visited me today and we were just talking and said she had just heard a lecture being reminded that being in a material body at this time is really very special. And it is very special because it's only in this human body do we have the knowledge and the know-how to ask questions and to ask about the Lord and who we are and our connection. No other species in another species can do that. So it's important to realize, and we don't want to waste the time in this material body with other things. And that's what we're getting if we're hearing from these spiritual warrior books. And at that time, Lord Chaitanya came to see Kolavecha. And he came regularly. And at one point during one of their exchanges, he embraced him. And that embrace caused Colevacher to experience the highest level of love due to this attitude. And Sridhar did not look at his material deficiencies or envy the possessions of others. He simply appreciated that which came his way and offered it all back to the Lord. And I made a note here, today's economy, which is, I don't know what people's circumstances are, and if you read the headlines, you know it's down, it's up. We as spiritual warriors are appreciative for whatever comes and know that it's coming from the Lord. And He sees and knows what our needs are, and He will take care of those needs, and then we offer something back. In the Nectar of Devotion, another book from the Vaishnava tradition, it explains the concept called Dayabhak, which refers to the idea that a devotee should continue serving Krishna with perseverance in spite of many difficulties. And before I read that verse, I had to go back to the 12 qualities. It says a devotee should continue to serve with perseverance in spite of many difficulties. Don't know how many of you were with us for the 12 qualities of a spiritual warrior, but they can be seen in the archives, because that's what we started with back last November. But one of the qualities is perseverance. And whether you were here and you forgot, or if you've got the book and you're going to go back and check it, or you're brand new, this is one of the qualities of a spiritual warrior is perseverance. And here it comes up again, in spite of many difficulties. I just want to share this, please. Allow me. May I? Remember that one? May I take 2 steps back or something? Wow, I really went back on that.
There's a comment.
There's a comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
The comment is, animals live better than most humans.
That's a comment? Okay.
It's a reference to what you were reading about full surrender to the Lord and being in the human form of life. And it being the only body that one can...
In the human body?
Yes.
Yes.
So then the comment was, animals live better than most humans.
How do they do that? Because all they're doing is eating, mating, and defending. A human being also eats, mates, and defends, but a human being has the intelligence and the ability to question his purpose for being and his connection with the creator of his beingness, and to connect. And then with that, gaining knowledge in that respect and making that connection, he can end the cycle of birth and death. Whereas an animal will do what they're going to do. They'll die, because any living entity will die, and come back in another form, another animal form, or may graduate to a human form. So the human form...
It's in it. He says, basically, animals are closer to the actual laws of God. Animals cannot be demoniac.
Okay. That's his comment. Who is it making the comment?
His name is Scotty.
Who?
Scotty.
Sadi?
Scotty.
Scotty, welcome. Where are you located? You know, that's my next question. I like to know where you're coming from. if you care to share it.
He says, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm way up in the woods, he says.
Okay.
3 hours north of Montreal.
Oh,
Canada.
okay. In Canada, I guess. Okay.
I guess his point is that because animals are, they can't be demoniac, and they're, they just are actual laws of God. How is the human life better? Because we can make the decision to be demoniac or not, or come back or not. Whereas animals, insects, etc., they're just in the chain of just instinct and birth.
Instinct, right. But not knowledge. How is that better when the purpose of life and the purpose of being here is to know who we really are? We're an eternal living being, spirit, soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and His servants. And in that knowledge, reconnect with Him, because this world is not our home. Any theology or religion tells you this world is not your home. And reconnect in order to develop the love to go back home to the spiritual world from whence we came. No animal can think in that way. You can't teach an animal to chant the mantra. Of course, Lord Chaitanya chanted and they danced. But you can't tell an animal, you can tell, but it won't make that difference that you're a servant of God and you have to serve God and love God, and then you get out of this animal body and go back to the spiritual world. So the human is the highest species. And look, animals suffer. They seem, right, they're out there wandering, they have to scrounge for food, they have to kill to eat, they have to defend themselves when people come after them. I went to a doctor's office, he had his dog there with 3 legs, because I forgot his previous owner had beat him so bad. And we had a dog when I was at Gita Nagari. He ended up with 3 legs because a hunter saw him moving, thought he was a deer. So they're really not that better. They're in that position because karmically they may have been a human being who had an opportunity to gain the knowledge, to know who he is as a spiritual being, part and parcel of the Lord, reconnect with Him. And he forgot or decided not to use his free will for higher knowledge, went to lower knowledge, acted like an animal. When he died, he came back in an animal form. And this is the law of karma. You talk about the law. So, okay.
There's another comment. He says, I prefer to spend time with animals. They don't pollute. It is just a shame that humans don't live like animals. And then Bhakti Carol says, yes, and then Scotty says, other than devotees. And then Bhakti Carol, we are meant to learn, we are servants. And then Scotty says, it's just out of disappointment with people that I say this.
Yes, that can happen. That can happen. There so many varieties of people, personalities, and behavior patterns. But we can't turn away because, as we've been saying with these spiritual warrior books, as we gain knowledge and understanding, we can offer it back to others and help them become enlightened and enlivened and want to get out of their destructive behavior and possibly animalistic behavior. So we have a purpose for being here. And as we're hearing from spiritual literature or spiritual teachers and guides, and awakening, reawakening the knowledge of who we really are, because the soul knows its connection, but it's been covered through many lifetimes of coming and going, and it's forgotten. I think I just read here where the Lord himself says that from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And if we get so involved in sense gratification and material satisfaction, don't want to think about God, he helps us forget him. And then we become animalistic, or we become cold and heartless and harsh. And then some kind person, compassionate person, walks into that environment. But again, remembering we read that there's a lesson in every situation. If one of us finds ourselves in a situation with people who aren't very nice, and that's not hard in today's time, it's to ask and question why. How did this come about? I think the section we read where we ask how, why. What in me brought this situation about, and what am I to learn from this? And this is when, referring back to the section we read about take yourself out the center. You have to put God in the center and remember. If you're remembering your connection, your placement, your position, then one can learn from that situation, and maybe just to show us the Lord in the heart, realizing we really want him, showing us a situation to make us realize, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be like this anymore. There must be something higher. There must be something better. You see, a human can do that. An animal can't. They'll keep coming in. You kick them and beat them and they'll cower down, but they're still there. Especially if you give them something to eat. They want to lick your hand, you know. But a human has the opportunity, if you will, the mind to say, I don't want this anymore. I'm not happy with this. I want something better. And this is when that Lord in the heart, as we just said, who is there for remembrance, and knowledge, will click, hear that cry, and send either somebody to talk to you, or you find a book, or you pass by a church or a temple, and you begin to hear. So that's the difference. That same animal can walk past that church or temple and just keep on going, looking for something more to eat. But the human can go in and associate with people of higher knowledge and awaken who they really are inside. So we can't put everybody down. We all come with different karma. When he gave a whole thing, we talked about the karma factor in life. But we also are all part and parcel of the same Supreme Lord. And when that desire to know that, and the tiredness of being like an animal, then we begin to rise in higher consciousness. And that same Lord we're talking about, the Supreme, will send help to us and help us. And that's where this attitude of gratitude, because you will see a shift. You will notice something is different. Or this book I'm reading answers my question. Or this person I bumped into or picked up a newspaper. Something has happened. Oh, it's not so bad. Oh, and you begin to be taken to a higher level of consciousness. An animal cannot do that. Scotty, how's that?
He said, yes, I understand this. And then he says, thank you. It's just a shame that everyone does not welcome God into their hearts.
Right, but you can be a messenger and help. If you have done it and you are aware of that, have that knowledge and that love for God and an attitude of gratitude, then you be the messenger. And you help someone, offer it to someone else. Be the example of one who has taken God into their hearts and has realized it and is living it and applying it in their lives. And you can help others. And it's mentioned constantly throughout the Spiritual Warriors book of how we're to help others as spiritual warriors. So welcome, spiritual warriors, Scott, and please be on that battlefield of consciousness. You're not, that's where our weapons are love and compassion and tolerance. Okay? Thank you for being there, and do come back and make comments at any time. Okay, I think I'm gonna continue. Where did I leave off? Oh, that was nice. Okay, perseverance. I was gonna go back to a spiritual warrior and perseverance. And since I was guided to do it, I'm gonna do it. I was gonna skip it, but I try to follow. Now, what he says, a true warrior, don't forget, we're spiritual warriors on this path, growing, never wants the war to end. A true warrior is relentless and always ready to continue. We must be prepared to continually evaluate ourselves, regroup, and adopt strategies to help us move beyond what may seem to be defeat. See, only a human can think in that way and move ahead. And as we do, then changes will occur in our lives, and we'll be examples for others who are also wanting that. The true test of warriors is how they act when wounded. The real spiritual warrior bounces back immediately in the face of defeat. Rather than caving in, the warrior learns from the experience. Remember, we did this attitude. There's a lesson in every situation. There will always be temporary setbacks in spiritual life. In Spiritual Warrior 3, where I'm reading now on the teleconference call, spiritual life is challenging. It really is. But we're being tested. What he called them, we get qualifying tests to see if we're ready to go further and eventually reconnect with the Supreme Lord and go back to our true home in the spiritual world. If you're in school, in college, wherever in school, you got to take tests to see if you've learned the lesson that's been given. And if you did, what happened? You passed the test, you get promoted. If you did, you passed the test, you get your degree. So, why is spiritual life different? And it's higher. So we're going to be challenged. But it's to qualify us to go to the next step. So there are always temporary setbacks in spiritual life. But the real test is how we continue to move ahead. Okay? Okay. I was guided to share that with you. I hope it's helpful. So we're in this section on the scriptures, and we're looking at the nectar of devotion. It says, and now we're looking at Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, 14th chapter, text 8, that says, My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. What goes around comes around. We've heard that expression. And if you've studied karma, you know what this is meaning. But if we're having a hard time, but we patiently are suffering the reaction of our past misdeeds and offering you, the Lord, respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim.
Can you say where that's from again?
That's from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 8. Although we may have committed many sinful activities and must continue to receive the reactions, we should maintain a certain level of consciousness as well as gratitude, because in time it will become our rightful claim to return to the kingdom of God. And something I've been hearing since I came into this philosophy and teaching, and have really in a way experienced that the mercy of God is always there, and we do have to suffer the reactions of our past misdeeds, but when we're suffering or going through, if we remember that the Lord is within our heart, and as we said, in everyone's heart, and know it could be worse. What do you say? Worse than this, you crazy lady? Yes, it could be worse. But if you are in the mindset and hearing and studying and trying to get an understanding, as we've been saying here, that the Lord is in your heart. He's your best friend. He's your well-wisher. And he's there to help you and protect you and guide you. And this is why we're saying we need an attitude of gratitude. And if you understand that and you get to saying, well, this suffering is probably some past karma, because we don't know how many lifetimes we've been going around and around, birth and death, and what we've done and what we've picked up. But we're being shown now that if we are offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with your heart and your word and your action and your body, you will be eligible, because it becomes your rightful claim. That's wonderful. No animal can get that realization and make a change in their life, but a human can. We can, as we hear and work towards, and the heart is open for change. He goes on. Srila Siddhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. And these words are from Srila Prabhupada, who writes his commentary in the purport to that particular verse. So if you can get to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, and see the whole verse, it's really beautiful and inspiring. The author goes on, however, we must carefully maintain our spiritual life through gratitude and by accessing the science in a proper way. If we lose our enthusiasm along with our entire spiritual life, we will not inherit this wealth. We will then allow obstacles to disturb us, although they could have been valuable opportunities. You see that? Obstacles can be valuable opportunities only if we don't allow them to disturb us. If we serve mechanically or allow our egos to take over, we will also lose our spiritual life. Somehow, we simply have to get to go on in order to inherit the wonderful assessment. And that's your perseverance. And what did we say? It's how a warrior acts when they're wounded. The real warrior bounces back immediately in the face of defeat. And I'm going to stop there. We didn't quite finish the chapter, but I think we covered a number of points. Next week, we'll go to access gratitude in our own lives. That sounds exciting. And if you've been following this chapter on an attitude of gratitude and endeavoring to practice and apply some of the concepts and points made, I hope your life is being happy and excited and joyful. So, are there any comments or questions before we shut down? Who's there?
There's Scotty, Adi,
Adi.
Bhakti and Carol,
Hi, Bhakti and Carol.
and Lavananda.
Who?
Lavananda
Lavananda.
and Parameshwara
Parameshwara, welcome.
and Karuna Shakti Devidasi.
All right. I wish I knew where you were. You know, I always like when you put in your name to put your location. And I guess I still haven't learned to completely surrender and not care about the results. But it's okay if you don't. I thank you, and I definitely appreciate your being here and praying you've gotten something from this to apply in your lives. I'm thankful and grateful that I'm able to present these works of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. So, any comments, questions?
Well, you know where Bhakti and Carol is from. Adi Kavi Das is from Alachua. Karuna Shakti is from Canada. And I believe Lavananda is from Indiana.
All right. That's nice. All right. It's spreading out. Okay. Thank you for giving that information. I'm grateful to know where you're from. Any comments, questions? With Bhuvan Mahan there tonight? Huh? No? Okay. Thank you for being there. Prayerfully, we'll meet next week, and we'll be looking at accessing our own gratitude in our own life. Have a wonderful week. Hare Krishna.
Everyone says thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.